Hello? Hello? Finally. What did you say your name was? Tim? Wait, what? Oh, you're not the supervisor? I asked to speak to your supervisor. Supervisor? Wait, don't put me back on. Oh. All I want to do is get my issue fixed. Oh, hi, fellow YouTubers. As you guessed it, this week's episode will be on customer service. I'd like to take a quick look on the two sides of customer service. So here are the two candidates. Enjoy. So I will be representing the unhappy customer. And I will be representing your customer service representative. Thank you for calling. I call you guys to get service, and what do I get? We'll be right with you within the next couple of minutes. Then I hear a little music, and then the music cuts in, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna pick me up, and the music restarts. That's kind of annoying too, but the worst part is I call you. I shouldn't be waiting half an hour, an hour. I've waited once, an hour and 40 minutes. Why? Because there was nowhere I could communicate to get my issue resolved. I mean, not complicated, just make sure you have people available when I call in. We do apologize for the wait time. Unfortunately, we do have a limited number of CSRs on the floor, and we do a certain type of forecasting that allows us to predict how many customers will be calling, but due to unusual circumstances, there will be exceptional moments where customers are all calling at the same time and we are simply not staffed to handle those kind of requests. Now, they could put more people on the floor, but that would require an insane amount of budget from the company to make sure that every call is answered within the first 2 minutes. Thank you. So I can't get my issue resolved and I want to speak to a supervisor, but you tell me supervisor is not available, or you can't pass me to a supervisor. I mean, is it really difficult? You work for a company, you have bosses. I'm sure your supervisor is within reach, but you tell me you can't pass me your supervisor. So if you don't want to help me, or you can't help me, and you don't want to pass me a supervisor, what are my options here? I mean, it doesn't sound very professional. We apologize you can't get to a supervisor. Most of the time it's kind of show of disrespect towards the CSR, and we don't take offense, but we do have to position the fact that every CSR is able to help you. Now, whenever you ask for a supervisor, that supervisor actually is in charge of monitoring about 15 agents on the floor on average. That includes call monitoring. Whenever we take the supervisor off that task, we're taking the supervisor away from quality control, and that's something that will impede how the call center operates in the long run. Most of the time we can go see the supervisor when there's an issue that's pretty severe to handle. We can shorten the demand instead of spending a long call from the customer point of view. We can shorten the demand with the supervisor, get to the point, say what the issue is, and we can come back and get to the root of the problem. Rudeness. Yeah. Happens to me all the time. I call in to complain, and for some reason customer service just starts, I don't know, they just want to get rid of me. And first thing I want to do is get my problem resolved, but all I can get is from the CSR is basically, sir, I've covered everything that you want, blah 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 blah. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your attitude. Just help me out here. We do apologize that certain agents are rude on the floor. It's not something that is by design. They take anywhere from 30 to 40 to 50, even 80 calls a day. And after you've spoken with your 6th or 7th customer that's been yelling at you, you tend to lose a little bit of patience with customer at the end of the day. CSRs are trained sometimes for 5, 10, or 15 years in the field to be able to handle those requests, but after a while having screaming customers, it does affect you in some way. So If you're patient with the next CSR, I'm sure that the CSR would reflect it in the same way. They try their best. Sometimes it feels like I'm talking to a robot. I call you guys in, I ask to be served, and it feels like one of you guys are just reading a text. I mean, right on paper. So I don't feel you're listening to me if you're just reading from a piece of paper. How does the piece of paper adapt to my needs? Answer me that. Ah, yes, the famous CSR that reads directly from his desktop or from his laptop or from a piece of paper, because they all do it when they start out a company since they don't know quite the policy to use. But seriously, CSRs, they got to start from somewhere, and they will put experienced CSRs on the field most of the time. But every company policy changes over time, so it's impossible for a CSR to know all this information ahead of time. And when you're on a call, it's a little bit harder to concentrate. Now, they do get training, but that training is not always sufficient enough to remember everything. So I start getting my issues resolved, and you start putting me on hold. Okay, that's fine. I wait a couple of minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes, come back. You come back, we discuss more about the issue, and I'm put back on hold. Really? I mean, it wasn't enough to put me on hold the first time. You put me back on hold again? Yeah, well, we do have to put customers on hold from time to time. This is not intentional. Most of the time, our training is limited, and there's no way for a company, in most cases, to train us in everything that we need to know. Certain issues comes out once in a blue moon, and when we get those calls, there's no way for us to know the answer. So if we want to give the right answer and not direct you in the wrong direction, we really need to communicate either with a manager, a senior, or even another department. And unfortunately, we do use lingo or terms that is not known to the customer. So if we ever have the customer on the line, we have to explain every single term as we go along. It's much easier for us to get the information we need while you're on hold, and we'll be right back to attempt to resolve the issue. Yeah, the famous hang up. Exactly how I feel. So we spend a couple of minutes talking, sometime half an hour. We're done resolving the issue almost. There might be one or two things to resolve, and then while you put me on hold or transfer me to another department, I get that. I mean, so what am I supposed to do? Call back? Okay, sure, I call back, but can I talk back to you? No, because for some reason, one CSR doesn't know what was the other CSR I was speaking to. So I gotta start all over again. Ah, yes, the famous hang up. Surprisingly, the hang up situation is more damaging to the company than it is to the customer. We have to start back from the beginning, and we, on the other hand, ends up with a customer that's even more frustrated than when we started. So it's never to our benefit to hang up, but whenever there's a communication between departments, if there's an issue with the lines and there's no technology that's 100% proof, whenever there's an issue between a transfer or just simple human error where we used our own extension and the line gets flushed, or there's too many lines being used at once and the system just starts flushing a line, and that's not optimal, but it does happen. Technology is not perfect, regardless which company you work for. It's going to happen where a customer, we lose them, and it is most frustrating. So sometimes what you want to do before you get hanged up, you might ask the customer, the customer service representative, to basically take your contact information before you go further in the call and ask them that they call you before you start any conversation. Now, they may not like that, but it is the best thing to offer. That way you'll know you'll get someone calling back. Oh yeah, the ping pong ball phenomenon. I call in to have an issue. Oh, well, actually call in to have 5 issues resolved. I get 1 issue resolved, then you tell me you can't take care of it, or you have to pass me to another department. That's fine. I get to another department, but somehow they can't help me. And they say, we're sorry. They don't, okay, fine. So you pass me to another department. And again, they help me, but not everything that I was supposed to do. Why can't you do it all? Communicate with those departments, then you call me back or fix it while I'm on the phone. But why do you have to transfer me like a freaking ping pong ball? Ah, yes, the famous ping pong phenomenon. Now, some of us do call it that as well. You have to understand that CSRs are equipped to handle general issues, and they can't be trained to handle all issues because the volume of calls would simply go through all the CSRs. We need to make sure that the agents, the workers who has the proper training handles the specific issues. Like technical issues would take much longer. So if you gave all the technical issues to CSRs, there would be no way for you to reach another CSR because we'd be handling mostly technical issues. They have a department for every request, and it is specific for a reason. The worst result of CSR communication: not getting the issue resolved. I mean, they work there. They're supposed to know what they're doing. I mean, even someone new to the company gets training, right? So why is it so difficult for the issue to get resolved? It shouldn't be difficult, but we go back and forth a couple of days, and in the end, I either lose patience and accept the problem that never gets resolved, or I switch company. I mean, it benefits no one. So why don't you get my issue resolved? It is not complicated. Look up your other department, check with your boss or your supervisor that supposedly is right next to you. Just make it happen. Yes. Well, this one is actually quite difficult to answer. And not having the issue resolved. Well, it could be a couple of things. Would need an example, but I would have to say most of the time is that you're either calling the wrong line, the wrong department, or simply the issue cannot be resolved because it's not part of the technology that's working for you. Cell phones, the best example of all. Someone wants to be able to increase the time it takes for the voicemail to respond to a call. Calls are done between cell phone towers, and there is a delay. It's limited by the technology, and the customer may be complaining that it's not going to the voicemail fast enough. Maybe 3 seconds is not fast enough. Maybe 1 second is not fast enough. They simply want it done even faster, but technology is not always in place. Now, this may be considered as an unresolvable issue, but we work within our limits, within our tools, and I can guarantee you that it's in the best interest of the company for the CSR able to please the customer, and that would be you. So I hope you enjoyed this little sketch about the CSR and the customer. Hopefully you can decide from the sketch if more should be given to the CSR for making an effort, or more should be given to the customer for having the patience to deal with the CSR. As always, your opinion matters, so if you have anything to share, just leave a comment down below. And as well as if you like this video and other videos that I may be doing in the future, please subscribe, and of course press on that like button. I will definitely appreciate that. Thank you.